Hello, welcome everybody to another episode of Arthur's Roundtable. Super happy to have you with us today. And big thank you to my dear friend Alex Fredericks. If you don't know him, look him up on LinkedIn. He has kindly introduced Leon, and I watched Leon's Netflix episode, and we're super happy to have him with us here today, um, live from Los Angeles. So, Leon, tell us a little bit about the background. People will be able to see it in the Netflix episode, but let's get started with that.
Well, thanks for having me.
You're welcome.
The documentary is called "The Kindness Within: A Journey to Freedom," and it's on Amazon Prime. I think the Netflix show you're talking about is "The Kindness Diaries,"
Oh,
which
no,
is
I
when
just
I
I just screwed that up. That's all.
it's all good, don't
Yeah.
worry. Um, and I mean, look, where to start? So I used to be a broker in the city of London, and I had everything you could ever want on the outside. And on the inside, I was very, very depressed, a lot of anxiety. I kind of felt like I was living someone else's life. But no one knew because I was wearing a mask, not the COVID-19 type, the psychological mask that said, I'm fine.
Yeah,
And I'm pretty sure everyone
don't
can.
feel so alone with that. There's a lot of people doing
Well, well,
that.
exactly. I was just about to say that. I think we
Yeah.
can all relate to that, right?
Yeah.
And I stumbled across the movie The Motorcycle Diaries,
Yeah.
which is a romanticized version of Che Guevara traveling around South America relying on kindness. And to cut a very long story short, after watching that movie, I decided to quit my job and start traveling around the world relying on kindness. I did a lot of crazy things. I hitchhiked from Times Square to the Hollywood sign. I hitchhiked from the Eiffel Tower to Red Square in Moscow. I bought a vintage English taxi and drove it from New York to LA. I drove a car from Mongolia to, not from London to Mongolia. A lot of crazy things. And in those moments, I realized that there was another way to live. And I didn't have to live from up in my mind. I could live from in my heart. Um, I moved to LA, spent about 8 years in LA, and then, well, I'm still here, and then I had another epiphany because I found I was still doing the same things. I may not have been working a corporate job per se, but I was working in the production industry and I wasn't wearing ties anymore, but it was the same kind of thing. And I found myself walking on Hollywood Boulevard and I saw this homeless chap with a sign that said, kindness is the best medicine. And I had another epiphany. So I quit my job again. And this time I started to travel around the world, relying entirely on the kindness of strangers. And I took my yellow motorbike from Los Angeles all the way around the world back to Los Angeles. No money, no food, no gas, no place to stay. And that's the show that ended up on Netflix. And at the end of each episode, an unsuspecting Good Samaritan got a life changing gift. And I got what I thought I always wanted. I got a Netflix show. I was speaking in stadiums. I was writing best selling books. I was on Good Morning America. I had arrived. I think you know where this is going. I,
Yeah,
in
but
fact,
let
had
me
not.
just ask you a quick question. A lot of people are in the position where they do things just because they need to feed their family, pay the bills, do whatever they need to do, and they set aside whatever passion or interest they have because it's just a pragmatic issue. When you went back to LA and you said, "Oh shit, I ended up doing the same thing I was doing before," was it just a matter of making a living as opposed to uh, you know, not following your dream, so to speak? You just because you had to make money, right? At some
Yeah,
point.
yeah. Look, I think on some level, it was definitely about making a living.
Yeah.
And that's why I went into the production world. And I made a good living, as I had made a very good living prior to that as well, right?
Yeah.
But it got to a point where it was just too much. And I get it. And I would never suggest that everyone can just quit their job.
Of course.
Everyone can just travel around the world. It doesn't work that way. It just
Yeah.
so happened it worked that way for me.
Yeah.
Each person is different.
Perfect. Yeah. Yeah, that's what I was looking for. I mean, so, look, the preponderance of the population are just doing what they need to do to get by, right?
Yes.
So yeah, continue. Thank you for answering that.
Yeah, no worries. So I ended up doing that trip around the world, relying on kindness, getting what I always had wanted, right? But I realized that's not what I wanted. Even though it was, and I'm proud of my success, there was still a massive hole inside me, right? And this is where we get to the movie. So I ended up having a dark night of the soul. I was up in my house in Hollywood, and it was just too much, and I started writing this note, this suicide note. I didn't feel like I was going to act on it, right? But I wrote this note, and it was a dark, dark night. And I ended up calling my therapist at like 11 o'clock at night, and randomly he picked the phone up, which was a miracle in itself. And he kind of calmed me down. The next morning, I found myself in a bookshop. I'd been to that bookshop many, 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 many times. And I'd seen the autobiography of a yogi by Paramahansa Yogananda many, many times, but I'd
Mhm.
never picked it up.
Yeah.
And for some reason, I picked it up that day, opened it randomly to a page, randomly looked at a paragraph, and in it, he said to his soon to be guru, "If you reveal God to me, I will follow you anywhere." And I had an epiphany. I was
Mhm.
like, oh my goodness me, I'm going to India to find God.
Mhm.
So, because I was in the industry, I called up my director friend. I said, "Do you want to come to India? We're going to go and find God." And he's like, "All right." And obviously, that's the shorter version of of what happened. But I wasn't looking for the God that lives up in the sky. I was looking for the God, the universal God of love, source, spirit. And that's how you and I connected based on that movie, right?
Yeah, totally. And it's interesting, the therapist was generous in that he participated in the movie and articulated what happened that you just described. You called him and he was there, and you know he shared a lot about of that with the audience as well. I have to tell you a little book story. This is your time, but I'm at a bookstore that I had been to many times at the little town where my son went to college. And it just so happened while I was there waiting for him to meet me for lunch or whatever, the entire main street, the power went out. And I'm walking through the bookstore, it was daytime, so you could still see. And a book fell off the shelf right in front of me on the floor, which there was no reason for a book to fall off the shelf. And it was called Synchronicity.
Wow.
And it's a beautiful book. I mean, it's a spiritual book, it's revealing book, a book that I still cherish. But I've had a few of these things happen to me. And so I totally get, opening up that Paramahansa Yogananda page, and there it was, right? I totally get that and
No,
appreciate
thank you for sharing that story.
it.
And I'll tell you something that's not in the book, but is about synchronicity. It's not in the film, but it's about synchronicity. So I went to India. I'm in India. I'm in Rishikesh. I've been there 2 or 3 days in India, and I want to go home. It's one thing to be in Los Angeles on Venice Beach and saying, "Oh, you know what? I want to go and find God."
Yeah,
It's
right.
another thing to be in India to be like, "Oh, I want to find God."
Yeah.
It's like sometimes it's hard to face yourself, right? So it was a fantasy to go to India and find God, but I actually was there and I didn't want to be there anymore. So I was in this
Uh,
hotel in Rishikesh, a small little hotel up in the mountains, and I'd given up. I said, I'm done." I was on my way to my director's room to tell him I'm going home. And as I'm on my way, I see a door that's a little bit ajar. I was like, "Well, that's interesting." So I walk in, and it's a library, a little library. I mean,
yeah.
not a particularly great library, right? But a little library.
Mhm.
So I go into the library. I love books. And what do I find? Yogananda's book, The Divine Romance.
Mhm.
What is the Divine Romance about? Finding God.
Mhm.
And in that moment, I was like, okay, fine.
Yeah, yeah, you can't
It's
can't
done.
give it up.
No, I get it. I'm going. I understand. I'm not going home.
Yeah.
So
Have you
yeah, I relate.
have you studied any of Joseph Campbell?
I love Joseph Campbell. The movie was based on the hero's journey. We
Yeah,
actually looked very carefully at the hero's
totally,
journey.
totally based on the hero's journey.
Yeah.
I think I've read everything he's done. He's magnificent. He has a saying in one of his compilations on the back of the book. It said, "Life is full of sorrow, embrace it." Which, a little thing like that, if you just change your lens on things, sometimes it's so helpful. Yeah,
Mhm.
he's a you, it's crazy that he was at Sarah Lawrence and taught for 35 years. He went into the wilderness and read everything on the planet before he started mythological studies at Sarah Lawrence. It was really interesting guy.
Have you seen the movie Finding Joe?
Maybe not.
Finding Joe is all about Joseph Campbell.
Yeah,
You should watch it. It's
I would
great.
definitely watch it.
Yeah.
Years ago on PBS with Bill Moyers, The Hero's Journey, or I think that's what it's called, but it was like a six-part series. I could watch that every day. It was so good. So it was Finding the Myth or something like that. But it's on YouTube. It's 20 years old. It was interviews with Joseph Campbell. It was brilliant. Just brilliant stuff. Anyway, just fascinating. So I hope you don't mind me asking this and you don't have to answer it. Uh, a lot of people, especially today, have been doing ayahuasca journeys to try to find themselves and reveal, you know, uh, things that could help them uh, in a variety of ways. Did any of that have anything to do with your revelations? Any plant
So,
medicine
so
and or anything like that?
yeah, not for me,
Yeah.
but I have a lot of friends that do it, and they have experienced transformational shifts.
Yeah.
And I have like the wisest man I know has never done it, yet you can sense that he has the wisdom of having done it,
Yes.
right? So I haven't done it. Maybe one day I will. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But from what I've heard, if done correctly, under spiritual guidance, it can be life changing.
Yeah. I've done it and I've done it with well curated, I believe. And I actually don't feel like I need to do it on an ongoing basis, but
Mm.
it was revealing and worth it. And uh, um, the challenge is like with anything else, you get people that do it and they still are fucked up, right? Um, and and that's pretty clear. But it's not a judgment, it just is what it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
Super interesting. So, all right, now you've got another sign with the book in the library. Now what?
So I stay, right? And I make a commitment to myself that I'm not going to give up. And I can't. How can you do that? You can't give up when that book shows up. It's just not possible.
Yeah,
In
not
the
possible. Yeah,
exact moment of giving up, the book shows up.
yeah,
It was, we tried so desperately to put that in the movie. But the problem was it all happened without any cameras.
Oh,
So,
so you don't think people would believe it?
well, not just that, we filmed it afterwards, but it just didn't feel real.
Yeah,
It
wasn't
just
authentic.
felt,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah, it just didn't feel real. But it's such an important piece, but we couldn't put it in the movie.
yeah. And were you wanting to give up just because it was hard?
I mean, I'll tell you a quick story. So many years ago, after watching the movie, the Motorcycle Diaries, I had made the decision on my couch to quit my job and hitchhike from Times Square to the Hollywood sign. And then I arrive in Times Square and I'm like, what have I done? This is insane, right? But I had no choice in that moment but to go to Hollywood. I mean, I could have gone home, but I wasn't. But this time I had made the decision to go home
Right.
and I needed that nudge to not go home.
Yeah. And What aside from what we just in a perfunctory way expect from India, being the home of Buddha, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, and really spiritual people and lovely. Joseph Campbell tells the story about when he was visiting a family in India, and one of his first visits, he is welcome into a home, and he said the people in India that were welcoming him, they were welcoming him as if he was the divine, and he was because they believe that the divine is in us already. It's not some external thing, right? And so he said, by God, you knew that they believed that I was being welcomed as the divine because it wasn't me, it was just everybody's got it in them. Anyway, so it's a fascinating place. And was the was it Paramahansa Yogananda because he was from India and brought meditation to the US and et cetera, et cetera. And naturally you would go to India to find God. Were there any other choices or is it just so clear?
Look, for me personally, because I had read that paragraph in Yogananda's book,
Yeah,
had to be India.
yeah.
Had I read a book about finding God, I'm making this up, in Poland, maybe I would have gone to
Oh,
Poland.
right, right.
Yeah. But also, India is a spiritual place.
Yes, totally.
So it was kind of the obvious choice.
Yeah. Okay, so you stayed. What now?
Well, I ended up meeting all these incredible people. The next day, in fact, no, it wasn't the next day. It was that day. I ended up going down into Rishikesh. And do you remember Nandini ji?
Yeah,
Nandini ji was the lady that I met at the ashram, and I
yeah,
sat with her at
totally.
the statue of Shiva.
Right. And you wanted to meet with the yogi, but he wasn't there or something like that, right? Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah,
So I ended up talking to her, and I remember saying to her after speaking to her, I mean, in the movie it's only a few minutes, but
yeah,
I was there under that Shiva statue for maybe an hour.
yeah.
And at the end, I remember saying to her, and it's in the movie, I said, "You have what I want. It's clear that you are connected. The question is, how do I get what you have?"
Yeah.
And she said four words that were really quite transformational. She said, "Don't do, just be."
Yeah, I
And
remember
I
that.
took that, yeah, I took that and I did my best to live by it. Does it mean I always don't do, just be? No, of
Yeah,
course not,
yeah, right.
right? But I try my best to don't do, just be.
Yeah,
And hopefully things will work out. I mean, I don't know. Like I said, there are times when I can't do it, but I do my best to try and do it.
yeah. The Beatles knew what they were doing. Let it be, right?
Let it be.
And
They
you know
know.
what else? It's fascinating. I love this song, but the Talking Heads "Home," you know, the Talking Heads song, so the narrative goes something like, I want to go home. Oh, wait a minute, I'm already here, right? Um, yeah,
Mm.
a lot of the musicians, whether it was psychedelics or whatever, were dialed in back in the rock and roll days and the height of the rock and roll days. The Beatles went to India, the whole thing. Yeah, I think they were dialed in many, many ways. Okay, so she told you just be, and now what?
Well, I continued my journey. I met Buddhists. I was in a Sufi mosque. I went to a church. I danced with the Hare Krishnas. I went to a synagogue. I had all these epic moments. And they all led me to one place. And I don't want to give too much away,
Yeah, yeah, of course. Yeah.
but it led me to one place, the Golden Temple. Have you ever been to the Golden Temple?
No.
So the Golden Temple is the most religious sacred site of the Sikh religion. It's in Amritsar, and it's a truly incredible place. And to me, that scene, the whole scene at the Golden Temple, for me is my favorite scene in the movie. Right next to the Golden Temple, within the grounds of the Golden Temple, is a kitchen. It's called God's Kitchen. They serve 100,000 meals a day. 100,000 meals a day, every day.
Wow.
And it was an incredible place. I always like to say there was Leon before God's Kitchen and there was Leon after God's Kitchen. There was a level of service, a level of generosity, a level of love from thousands of volunteers who do it for free
Yeah.
that you truly have to experience in person to understand the magnificence of that place. Now, hopefully, in the movie, you get some type of feeling, right, from that scene, and then go to the Golden Temple
Yeah.
because it is the essence of God, it is the essence of love. It is the essence of everything the movie's about. And it was my absolute favorite place that I went to on that trip.
So would it be like an ashram on steroids? One of the things about ashrams that's so cool is that everybody pitches in and the food is outrageously good and everybody's kumbaya, whatever, whatever. When I've been to many ashrams that I love, um, but there's an energy of loving kindness that is unmistakable, right?
That is the energy that was there, an
Yeah,
energy of loving kindness. Exactly that.
yeah,
And it's a transformational place. Even if you don't watch the movie, go to the Golden Temple.
yeah,
It is incredible. It is an incredible, incredible place, God's kitchen. And it's called God's kitchen for a very good reason.
yeah. Are they serving indigents or people? What's the
All different types of people,
yeah, yeah,
all different types of people.
yeah. Have you run into the hugging saint Amma?
I haven't. Have you?
I've had four hugs.
Oh, wow. And what happened?
The first one was uncomfortable because I was not in a place, you have to be fertile for these things. Like that's the way I call it. You have to be like open. And I was just trying to, get laid, right? The chick that brought me there, right? So it was, and she was totally into it and I didn't give a shit. And, you know, I felt bad because she put me in front of the line and people stand for days to get up. And so it was just really uncomfortable for me because I got pushed to the front of the line in front of all these people that really cared, and I didn't care. But after that, I went three other times in New York City when she was there, and not only was the hug important, but the whole vibe, the vibration of, I stayed for 3 days, you know, in the conference center and ate ashram food and just listened to and the monks playing the music. I mean, oh my God, like it's, it went like that, right? So no, it was that's a nice experience. And look, this is not about me, so but I'm going to tell you, like I've had my son, come with me to ashrams. I said, look, you just really need to glean what's important to you from this and not fall into the trap of saying this is the answer to everything. Like, don't give away all your money, just you know. And so I've taken him to just it's a magnificent experience. Yeah, yeah,
I would love to do that. And one
yeah,
day, hopefully, I will.
yeah, yeah. She has a place out in LA.
Oh, she does?
Yeah,
I
yeah,
didn't know that.
yeah. She is one of the biggest. I'm going to get this wrong, but it's something like she has orphanages all over the world.
Hmm.
Yeah, yeah. Special,
Cool.
a special group. Um, and I'm not suggesting I know this, you got to watch out, right? A lot of those groups are just, there's some nefarious activities in the back, but um, you, again, glean what's important, but it's a special thing, no doubt. Yeah. Okay, so now we got God's Kitchen. What's next?
Well, after God's Kitchen, I go back to Rishikesh. And I end up finally meeting with the guru. Um, and he says something to me that I'll never forget. He says, peace is a magnet. And what did he mean by that? I think what he meant by that, right? I mean, maybe he didn't mean this, but whatever. This is what I took from it,
Yeah.
was that if we have peace within, everything flows through that. If we have peace within, we live from that place. We attract people who come from that place. And we get to live the greatest life that we can possibly live. And if you look at it from the opposite, if you have hate and chaos within,
Yeah. Yeah.
what happens?
Yeah. That's what you track.
Externalized, and
Mm.
I don't want to get political, but you know, some people have chaos happening within, and it is being projected without.
Totally.
And we are all going on a ride because of that. It's literally that simple.
Yeah. I think you're right. It's yeah, Joseph Campbell said this too, and did as did Ayn Rand, who I'm a big fan of. Is that if you don't settle yourself first, you're no good to anybody else, right? And it's not a selfish perspective, although people often interpret objectivism, Ayn Rand, as being selfish. It's more, in my estimation, that you got to settle yourself. You got to get yourself squared away, get your house in order before you can be of any value to anybody else, um, including your kids and your family and your peers and your friends and so forth, which is arguably the same thing. If you're coming from a place of peace, then that is unmistakable, right?
And that's why they're great, right? That's why these people are great, because they are coming from that place.
Yeah,
And that's why we are all, most of us, many of us, are attracted to them because of that.
yeah. So, in your travels, I mean, this experience had to be extraordinary. There were there others that you met or ran into or became friendly with that were on the same mission as you?
I mean, look, there are many, many people out there who are on this mission, let's call it, right? Because that's where truth lies. And I think as human beings, we innately need truth. I'm not talking about mind truth, right? I'm not talking about what's going on up here, what we
Yeah,
think is true.
yeah,
Oh, the left is wrong, or oh, the right is wrong. I'm not talking about that.
mhm,
I'm talking about the hugging saint vibe truth,
yeah,
right? Which you've experienced.
totally.
Ultimately, that is what we all want, and what we all seek. And some of us think we can get that by making lots of money. There's nothing wrong with making lots of money, right? But you're not going to get the hugging saint vibe by making lots of money.
Yeah,
You know, you can make lots of money and still have the hugging saint vibe, right? But
totally.
you can't have the hugging saint vibe just by making money.
Yeah, yeah, totally. Yeah, and I think there's a lot of seekers in the world, and they're often looking for the magic. And I think what you said earlier is it's already there. You just have to activate it, right?
And that's not easy, right?
No.
Like, I don't want anyone to sit there
Yeah.
and think to themselves that, oh, you know, Leon went to India and came back and became enlightened,
Yeah.
or Leon quit his job and then all of a sudden got everything he wanted.
Right.
That's not real. That's not reality. That's not
No.
what happened.
Yeah.
You know, it's taken 20, 25 years to
Yeah.
get to this place.
Yeah.
And I get it. Most people can't do that.
Yeah.
They can't face this because they've got kids, they've got a mortgage, they've got a job, etc., etc.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
get it. It
Yeah.
is not a simple thing. And that's why few people do it.
Yeah.
And I was privileged enough to be able to do it.
Yeah.
If I'd grown up in a different system, in a different society, with a different family, I would not have been able to do it.
Yeah. Did your family think you're whacked out of your mind and that you were going to go give away all your money to some guru in India?
I think they look, this process of mine has taken many years. So at the beginning, when I quit my job, they probably thought I was a little bit, insane.
Yeah,
But as time has gone on, they don't really think I'm insane anymore. Well, they don't tell me that they think I'm insane,
yeah,
because I'm just following my path, and my path will lead me where it leads me,
yeah.
and they accept that.
So is it fair to ask that? I mean, I think it's an ongoing journey and process, but is it what's the next thing for you, do you think?
I get asked that a lot, and the truth is, as it stands now, there is no next thing. I am doing what Nandini ji said. Don't do, just be.
Is B, yeah,
Yeah. So I'm trying my best to be.
yeah,
And there's no books, there's no shows, there's no real speeches, there's not a lot. All right. And again, I get it. Not everyone can do that. Not
yeah,
everyone can be like, all right, I'm just going to be. I'm not going to do. I'm not going to go to work. I'm just going to sit at home and look at the mountains and just, whatever. I get it. I mean, look, I understand. Sometimes you have to do because you're
yeah,
forced to.
yeah,
As to the best of your ability, don't do, just be.
yeah.
Small little steps will get you to a place of being.
And so how's that going for you?
At this present moment, it's going pretty well.
Well, that's good to hear.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, uh, people have frenetic lives. Um, and some of it's out of pragmatism and some of it's out of they don't know, that's how they've learned it, right? So uh yeah, there's the old saying about getting off the rat race. I mean, I lived in New York City for 25 years, right? Still there. Uh Completely different vibe than Park City, Utah, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I imagine you feel different.
Yeah, listen, I've always enjoyed nature. I've had the privilege of being able to always exit the city whenever I wanted to. You know, nature never disappoints. And so, there's I look out the window, I can see the ski slopes, right? I mean, it's magnificent. You know, there was 11 deer in the backyard yesterday, right? So there's a moose sitting on the pool cover, right? So, I'm very, very lucky in that I get to enjoy a lot of that. But uh, again, it's just a function of you know how things worked out for me, right? Yeah.
But you had to take certain steps to get there.
Yeah, look, and there was no doubt about it. Again, I don't want this to be about me, but I read 150 books in 1 year. And the first one was Paramahansa Yogananda. And it led me to another one. It led me to another one. It led me to another one, right? That was the beginning of me on a kind of a similar journey as you, meaning I didn't go to India. I just said, hold on a second. What am I missing here? Right? Uh, and fortunately or unfortunately, I don't know. I think it was fortunately I didn't have to exit my business life because I have a great business life. Like I do whatever I want whenever I want anyway, right? So I don't have the pressure you know, uh, of somebody else dictating what I'm going to do. I have a very fortunate position where I can do whatever I want to do in a business way. But so I had the privilege of also being able to focus for a year on, reading all those. I mean, there's amazing, amazing books, Joseph Campbell included. Yeah. So it's crazy. So I am just delighted to hear that right now it's going good.
Right now, that's all that matters, right?
Do you think that the I don't know how this works. Like I know nothing about Hollywood and all that Netflix, Amazon stuff, but is this a likely recurring revenue if it catches and people watch it. I mean, is this something where you're going to be able to economically just be?
Not this movie, no.
Yeah.
But
I don't know how that works, but
yeah, I didn't do it for that. I did it because I wanted people to be touched and I
yeah,
wanted people to be transformed. That's why I did it.
yeah,
And to share my pain.
yeah,
Because if I share my pain, you'll share your pain. Or
yeah.
it's much easier to do that.
And do you think that you accomplished your objective?
With the movie,
No, with you.
oh, with me. Well, it's a process. I'm certainly closer than I've ever been. We'll say that much for sure.
That's comforting to know.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I think you're pretty close.
I think you're right.
Yeah,
I am closer than I've ever been, which is a beautiful place to be.
yeah. Good for you. Cheers.
Cheers.
Got my green juice here.
Lemon juice, we call it.
Yeah. Well, I'm super glad that Alex put us in touch and I got to watch the movie. And even though I screwed it up, which one was which, but
That's fine.
yeah. My son says, wait a minute, you have everything? You have Hulu, you've got cable, you've got Paramount, you got, yeah. So I forget what's on.
Yeah, sure,
I don't
sure,
ever want to have to not see something that I want to see. I
sure.
got it all. So
All right. Well, thank you so much. It was a real pleasure. It really was.
it's my pleasure. Congratulations. Wishing you the best. I hope to keep in touch. We'll make sure that the community sees this and then obviously share it as widely as you like.
Okay, perfect. We'll do that.
And I hope to
Um,
talk to you again.
yeah, and do me a favor. If you can turn off the recording just for a moment.